Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Horror. I am your host, Kevin L. Powers. I am also the festival director and program director of Something Wicked Film Festival events, and welcome to our program today. Today we have a good slash maybe not so good slasher film from the 80s. The early 80s. But because it's an early 80s film, and me and my host probably weren't around to watch it when they originally were released, we have a kind of a different type of aspect of looking upon it. So today we are actually talking about the movie Slumber Party Massacre from 1982. And to join me on this conversation is the immortal Dave Watkins and Nate Hill. Thank you so much for joining us today, guys.
Wait, thanks we're not talking about Slumby Party Massacre?
Yeah, because that's the one. That's the one I watched
for Slumby Party Massacre. I don't know what this other film is.
It could be Gumby Party Massacre for all I fucking know.
Oh wait, yeah, Slumber Party Massacre. Massacre. That movie. Gotcha.
So I just have to say that I did not watch this when it originally came out. I actually watched it probably in the 2000s when the box set of they released all three of them, and then I kind of watched what do you call it? Triple feature. I didn't know
the trilogy.
It only had the trilogy. It did not have any of the spin-offs of what you saw.
Yeah, there are spin-offs. There's like Sorority House Massacre spin-offs.
It's like the Cheerleader Massacre spin-off.
Yeah. So yeah, your set was incomplete. Very.
Oh shit! All right, guys.
On that one, Kevin.
Well, now that people know that I didn't watch this in the 2000s, so my coloring of these films are not nearly as powerful as like someone who watched it in the 80s. When I watched it in the 2000s, these films didn't really do much for me. So tell me, guys, your first impressions for the movie.
If you ever wanted to see a really gratuitous version of Halloween that isn't quite as good, maybe Slumber Party is up your bag. It is for you. In this case, though, I didn't care for the film at first. The first half of it, it's like I felt like I was watching 70s porn stars portray high school students in a softcore slasher gratuity. It was nonsense, basically. That was my initial impression.
What about you, Dave?
Is that your initial impression? But then you're going to say something else. But then this happened, right?
I stopped about an hour into it. I took a break for a couple days. Then I started watching again. I think about the point where the pizza delivery guy falls through the door with his eyes drilled out. That's when it started getting interesting for me. About that moment. I mean, in the first half, there are a couple good kills. But, there's just so much gratuitous nudity and useless, unlikable characters walking around portrayed by actors who aren't that good at acting. And I don't know. If you can sit through the first half, I think the second half is worth your time. Let's put it that way.
Okay, how about you, Dave?
So I watched this for the first time recently as well. I bought this Scream Factory double feature. The first one and the second one is on 4K. And I actually have the Blu-ray as well, but I never got around to watching it. I was close to watching it a few times, but I liked it a lot more than Nate did. Roger Corman produced this, and the director, Amy Holden Jones, said he had a mandate for her within the first 3 minutes. She needed to show some nudity. And that's why you see in the first 3 minutes, the main character is undressing. She's just getting dressed. But really, there's no sex scenes in this movie. So it's not really like a porn type of movie. There are 3 sequences that have female nudity, and then there's a close up of a boob at one point. But it happens early in the movie, so it makes you think you don't know what's going to happen. And that's kind of what Roger Corman intended, because you're watching it and you think, oh, wow, we're going to see a lot of nudity here. But then it turns out like when it gets into the part where it really gets real, then it becomes like a really good slasher movie from kind of the probably about 45 minutes in it until the end. It's a really good slasher movie. I think the killer who has a big drill that he kills girls with is pretty effective, you know.
The most phallic
yeah.
slasher weapon you can imagine.
Yeah.
It's so like, yeah, it's very phallic, and he's the actor said that the way he played this character was he was thinking about the drill, and he was going to like make love to the women with the drill. That was his whole thing. So he kind of considered it like that, and he also made his characteristics after a peacock. So the way that he walks and he moves his head, he's walking and looking like a peacock is what he was trying to do.
A peacock?
Yeah, that's what he's trying to do with his eyes and stuff. And it's pretty effective, though. He looks pretty batshit crazy.
I did listen to a review that, like, compared to his movements being all animalistic and primal, it did not occur to me that a peacock was the slasher's inspiration. Here.
That's what he said. You know, and he hasn't really done that much more stuff. But he's on the director's commentary. There's a director's commentary with him and one of the other actresses, and he's pretty into it. He's pretty into this part. He said he got really into it. He had a bunch of notes for every scene, you actually see the killer pretty early in the movie.
Yeah,
not that well, but you see him inside the school. Like pretty good, you know. You don't see him that good, and then later, then it doesn't show him very good for a long time into the movie. But you get a pretty good look of him, a good look at him, because unlike a lot of other type of movies like Friday the 13th, you don't see the killer really until near the end.
I was honestly surprised that the slasher in this film didn't wear any kind of mask.
Yeah,
at the time. I mean, I'm so used to seeing that in slasher films. Just the fact that this guy did not wear a mask. You know, it does help give it Slumber Party Massacre a little more of its own identity. And the actor is good at doing the whole crazy eyes thing, though I guess it's a peacock eyes thing.
I would have never given it a peacock at all. I do want to say, though, there are some interesting cinematography at the very beginning, like when he's killing the one repair woman.
Right, yeah.
You know,
that's hilarious too.
It's hilarious in the context of this movie, but it's still a slasher film. In a normal slasher film in the 80s, it wouldn't be funny. But in this film, it's really
kind of funny, actually.
There's some. I mean, this movie was originally written as a parody movie, like Student Bodies or Pandemonium. It was kind of intended to be that, but then the director and Roger Corman wanted to repurpose it as a legitimate slasher, but it still retained some of the comedy from the original script.
That's right. Wasn't the original? I think it went through two different titles. Originally, it was called Sleepless Nights.
Yeah. And
then for a while, it was called Don't Open the Door.
Yeah.
I think I remember that.
Apparently Roger Corman, like she thought it was going to be Sleepless Nights the whole time. And after she completed the movie, he's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, we're renaming this thing Slumber Party Massacre." You know? And she was like, "Well, it kind of took her back a little bit," but then she was like, "He was right, you know. It helps sell." By the way, this movie made $3.6 million at the box office with a budget of $220,000, so it did really well. Yeah.
So of course they had to make a sequel. I mean, that's
par for the course for the 80s. Par for the course.
One thing I'd like to mention, there really isn't much of a story going on here. I mean, this is a very straightforward film. You've got this escaped serial killer named Russ Thorne running around hunting down high school students. And I don't recall how he found out about the slumber party itself.
It doesn't really say. I'm assuming that he follows them after they leave school, but he goes back to kill the one girl. So I don't know how he actually finds out about the whole story.
Well, you see him. The first time he's seen is in after the scene where the main character's in her room and she takes off her clothes for no reason, and then she has these dolls and stuff, and then she goes out and she throws her doll in the trash can, and then his hand comes and takes it out of the trash can. So he's there, so he kind of starts to follow her, I guess, at that point. But I mean, not that everything is going to make sense in the movie, and it was intended. it was originally based on like a parody script, so a lot of it, and sometimes not having things explained is probably better. It's like
Yeah.
in some
Was
instances.
it supposed to be a Halloween parody? I
I
think
guess
that.
Friday the 13th, Halloween. What was funny is that the director said that when she was making the movie, she had never seen Friday the 13th, and she thought it was a lot more original than it really was. And she's like, and then later on, I saw it, and I was like, oh damn, you were making Friday the 13th,
Well,
I thought I was making art.
well,
Yeah,
keep in mind it's the early '80s, so they were creating the rules as they were making those films, dude. So
right. Well,
yeah,
this is like a year after. This was made like a year after. I mean, it came out a year after, I guess. So they were probably making it at the same time Friday the
yeah,
13th was hit in the box office.
yeah.
But I mean, in order for her to see it, it's not like she could see it at home. She would have to have gone to the movie theater to see it.
hmm That's how I saw it too. That's like this is an early '80s movie, so
Yeah.
you know, the ideal of the nudity and all that type of stuff probably came from like the Hammer films from the late '70s that were very popular back then. You have lots of nudity in those movies, but we were getting away from all the gothic horror by the
Right.
'80s, getting more into. I'm still fat, slashers taking over an entire decade of horror films. So
Yeah, I think. Yeah, what was weird about the writing of it. The original script was by a writer named Rita Mae Brown, and she was
She's actually
actually, yeah,
a
she was
known
a
feminist,
yeah
I
feminist,
understand.
yeah, and she wasn't very happy with them changing the script, but she had sold it, so she couldn't do anything about it. But if you
hmm.
look on her page, though, she's got like a big ass Wikipedia page full of a bunch of stuff about her. She's written a bunch of mystery novels and stuff, but her most famous one's like about I guess she's considered a lesbian author, and it's called Ruby Fruit Jungle. Is her that's like a
Okay.
coming of age
I don't know.
lesbian novel that's pretty I guess influential. So, but she wrote the script for this originally,
I
but
wonder
she
if
wrote
it
it, yeah. Go
bothered
ahead.
her any that in all likelihood she's going to become, despite everything else she's done, she's probably best known as the original writer of
Of
Slumber
course.
Party Massacre.
uh, I don't know if that's the case because she, like I say, that book that she wrote is probably what she's most known for.
Well, fair.
She did write the Long Hot Summer TV movie. It was like a miniseries based on the play. Not it has Don Johnson in it. I've never seen it, but
I haven't seen it either. I know what you're talking
uh,
about, but I've never seen
I've seen their other movie. Was it Burl Ives in it and stuff? But no, was it Burl Ives or may have been Orson Welles?
it. Hmm.
I don't know. I just saw it. I think it's Orson Welles actually.
I haven't. I hate to
Yeah.
say this to everybody, but I haven't actually watched all of Orson Welles films. As much as I am a student of all film, and Orson Welles is someone that I should have
Oh,
watched all of his films, but I haven't
but
yet.
he's just acting in it though. He's apparently was his accent was so thick he went so overboard they had to like make him dub it because people couldn't understand what he was saying. Yeah.
Wait,
So,
which thing?
the Long Hot Summer. Well, that's the one,
Oh,
Yeah.
not the one she did, but there's another one that she did though. But that's other than that, I didn't recognize anything else on her list. But she has done a lot of work.
Hmm. Okay. Well, she probably tried to bury her involvement with this film as much as possible in other work.
Well, apparently, a lot of the people involved with it were ashamed of it, even though I think it's a pretty fun movie. But I think at that time period, a lot of the actresses wanted to distance themselves from it. Only one of them was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that time period, people treated horror movies as like one step away from straight up porn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of actresses from the original Friday the 13th, they had trouble finding any
Work.
acting gigs after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kevin Bacon went on to become Kevin Bacon. Go figure.
Well, nobody in this movie went on to do like anything that big. But the one actress though, there's you got the main actress who lives in the house, and then you got her friend who lives across that house beside hers. Like that actress apparently dated Sylvester Stallone and stuff like that later on.
Huh.
So
That's her claim to fame.
yeah,
Found
but
the bit where she
yeah,
dated Sylvester Stallone.
right. She dated him, and She killed herself later on, which is
Oh,
pretty messed up.
jeez.
But yeah,
Wow.
so,
Captain
Thanks.
Brimdown.
yeah, I know. Yeah, but she did date. They Stallone. But but
Well,
she
How about that other neighbor in this film, that really weird guy who lived next door to the main character, who was always dropping in and being all like, maybe not purposefully creepy, but still kind of odd.
Yeah, he was like he almost looked like a child molester sort of thing, and then like their parents were like, "Hey, you mind watching over my daughters when we're gone?" Yes,
No doubt.
but
I
yeah.
thought they were going to build to a moment where that creepy guy was somehow connected to the slasher himself.
Right.
And he was, I was expecting him to be somehow helping the slasher, and that would be like a reveal at some point, but no, he's just a weird guy who hangs around these high school students having a slumber party.
Yeah, he there's a lot of I'm going to get back to that and what he does in a second, but there's a lot of fake out gags in this movie, like where somebody jumps out and scares somebody, and the one with him right before he gets killed, like he there's like this like frog or something on this log, and she walks out to go get a log off the stack, and he all of a sudden has a meat cleaver and slashes it, and he kills the frog, or it's not a frog, it's a snail, and he kills the snail. Just like, why does he have a meat cleaver? And then he's like, I got it for you, don't worry about it, and then she says, oh, okay, thanks, and walks away, and then he's starting to walk away, and then gets killed.
I'm just gonna walk off with my meat cleaver, because that's what I do in my neighborhood. I just patrol the place and watch out for the high school students with my meat cleaver. Don't mind me.
Well, we've touched on some interesting concepts in this film, and like there's a lot of stuff that doesn't make much sense, but I think deep down it really doesn't have to. Mostly because you're watching a movie that at the time it was originally released was setting new boundaries and doing stuff that no one had really seen at that point. This is still the early 80s. And it was directed by a female director written by a feminist writer that we later find out.
This female director, apparently this is something that wasn't done in slashers. And way she was saying it, that she may be the only one during that era who directed a slasher movie, other than the other ones in this series, like the second and third one were directed by female directors. It was kind of like the calling card. This Sorority House Massacre, the first one was, but then after that, male directors for the second sequence to that. But
I understand the director was actually a film editor before she tackled this project.
Oh,
and because she accepted the job to do Slumber Party Massacre, she had to pass on editing Steven Spielberg's E.T.
Well, I mean, the thing is, it's unclear if she was going to be the main editor on E.T., but she edited 4 movies before this, and she never edited anymore. So she probably wasn't really meant to be an editor, which she's but what she found from doing this movie, and she tried to be a director for a little bit. She found that was really good at writing, which she was a writer on Mystic Pizza, Indecent Proposal, the Beethoven, the kids movie with the Saint Bernard dog, and also Relic, the horror movie Relic.
All right.
So she did. I mean, but her other movies was odd. Right after this, she did a movie called Love Letters with Jamie Lee Curtis that Roger Corman produced. I haven't ever seen it, but apparently he did this because the Slumber Party Massacre did so well, he let her do another movie. Of course, if she continued doing horror movies, she probably would have been a more successful director.
Mm-hmm.
But she did, instead of doing that, obviously she didn't want to do horror movies, but since she got out of that genre and tried to get into what she really wanted to do was kind of love letters, like Mystic Pizza and Decent Proposal, those type of movies.
More drama.
Yeah, romance drama. And she also made a movie which sounds interesting. I've never seen it. It's called Made to Order, and it has Ali Sheedy and Beverly D'Angelo.
I like that movie.
Seen it? Yeah, I hadn't seen it. I'm probably going to take a look at it.
That's a guilty pleasure movie for me because I'm a huge Alex Sheedy fan, and I have it on DVD. I don't think anyone's bothered to upgrade it from a standard DVD version.
Yeah, I like Ali Sheedy too.
So it's interesting that she was involved in this. But the thing about I wanted to make sure we mention this, that, and we've already mentioned a little bit about it, is that all the Slumber Party movies were directed by a female director. The second one, the third one, and even the remake, which I really enjoyed actually. Which is actually probably the only franchise in history that were all directed by a female director. But
I was curious about the 2021 remake of this Slumber Party Massacre. It actually holds up well.
You know what? That's the best one out of all of them. It would be like a Scream version of Slumber Party Massacre.
Huh.
But they reverse it. So anyone who hasn't seen this, I am revealing a little bit. They reverse it. The ladies of the Slumber Party Massacre are setting up a trap for the serial killer, and that's all. And by doing the things that a serial killer would expect them to do, it's actually a really clever movie, and extremely well done. And I was a little bit shocked that after watching it that it didn't get. I think it went straight to streaming, and I think it would have done.
It went to the Sci-Fi Channel, which
is that where it was? Okay,
I understand. Which, to be honest, is not a ringing endorsement.
It's not.
It's there.
It's not a ringing endorsement.
They do have, they do have it on the Scream Factory releases. They do have that as one of their releases on their site.
Okay.
They had it in Walmart too from when they released it. Which
that's when I bought it. But I didn't know Scream Factory had released it. I bought it simply because I hadn't seen it.
Yeah, it's one of their. Did you get the DVD or the Blu-ray of it?
DVD. Walmart sucks.
I can't find the Blu-ray. You can get it off their site, but if they had the Blu-ray at Walmart, I probably would have snagged it. But I don't know.
Yeah, Walmart has a knack of just putting the DVD version out of a lot of movies instead of the DVD and Blu-ray to give you an option. Right. So I unfortunately have a lot of movies on DVD simply because I want to watch them. And Walmart does make it easy for you to buy those movies at cheap prices.
Yeah, I was gonna point out though about, I hate to go back to it, but the meat cleaver part. But it doesn't make any sense. But the first time I was watching the movie, you don't think about it not making sense. You think about it later on. But when you're watching the movie, you see this guy killing the girls with a drill, and you're like, wow, he's switching to a meat cleaver. You're like, that's interesting. He's switching. Nope, he's not. But it is kind of cool the way they try to. He actually, everyone he kills in this movie, he does it with the drill, except for one girl. He ends up killing her with a knife.
Well,
because he gets himself knocked out of his hand.
All this though, it actually would have, in some ways, would have made sense if they had given the killer Russ Thorne the meat cleaver as well, because there is that bit where a female character goes out to a car parked outside to make out with her boyfriend.
Yeah.
And she goes back inside. She comes back to the car to make out with her boyfriend. And hey, it turns out he's been decapitated. And she's able to just pull her boyfriend's head right off the body.
Yeah, he couldn't have done that with a drill.
I just thought about that when you're walking. It's like, yeah, he couldn't have done that with a drill. So
we really couldn't have done it with a meat cleaver either.
No, but it would have made a little bit more sense than doing it with a drill, though.
Yeah. That drill is a very
messy,
cumbersome type of thing to be killing people with, and it's very easy to get it knocked out of your hand. How long it is, But unless it's fine if you catch somebody off guard with it, but when he has to chase them, it becomes more of an issue. That's why he has to use the knife at that one point,
Oh yeah, I would love to know why they thought that would be a cool item to kill people with, is a big ass drill. Other than the phallic part of it, it could be just a thematic thing that the director wanted, because there are so many better ways of killing people.
Yeah, well, he's definitely the actor playing the killer definitely considered that. But I guess it does kind of stand out. But it also kind of hurts you writing wise when you have to use that weapon. I mean, I can see it being used a little bit, but it's hard to actually use it. But he does kill a pretty good bit of people in the film, really.
You can't say he's not efficient since he kills several people.
Yeah, he's out of his damn mind. I mean, he's like really loopy.
That one bit at the end where he sort of reveals his motivation in the only lines he ever sees. He says,
Yeah.
I have to kill you. I love you. Something along those lines.
I've got the lines.
Did you write the
there you
line?
go.
It says, "You're all very pretty. I love you. It takes a lot of love for a person to do this. You know you want it. You love it. Yes." That's all he says in the whole movie. But he draws that out. It goes on for a while, you know.
Oh my God. Well, I think it works better that he doesn't say anything. He's almost like a Jason Voorhees or a Michael Myers instead of being like a Freddy Krueger at this point.
Or just some random guy running around without a mask.
I think it's fairly effective though, him explaining himself there in a way, because he doesn't just say it. He says it in a way that you can tell he's just completely bonkers, and not in a way that he really thinks that what he's doing is good. You know, he thinks he's doing the right thing. He's not like thinking he's a villain. He thinks he's like a good guy.
Yeah.
And they actually had a line that they cut because they didn't want to make him more likable. But like when he gets killed, they have him say like "mama" or something like that before he dies. But they cut it out. You know,
really?
I laugh, but there are slashers who did that too. Yeah.
I don't know if they thought it was he said he thought it was because it would humanize the character too much. They probably just thought it was too hokey, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that
kill for mommy, Jason.
Yeah.
Kill.
But the weird thing about the movie, really weird, the way that it's structured, it's not a very long movie. It's about an hour and 15 minutes, and so for the first 45 minutes of it, there's a lot of fake out gags, and then it takes about 45 minutes before everybody realizes that they're all in danger, and then they start trying to protect themselves from the killer, and that's when it kind of hits the fan.
I have to admit, a lot of it felt a lot longer to me than an hour and 15 minutes.
Well, yeah, because you stopped watching it after 45 minutes for 2 days.
And yet, I couldn't help but notice that it also does have decent pacing for, especially considering the time period it came out in. Yeah. I mean, things did move along at a decent clip. I'll give it that. There's a lot of quick cuts in this.
Yeah, I will say I watched it twice, and I liked it better the second time for some reason. But it was definitely a lot of the first time. It was kind of like what's going to happen and something like that. But I don't know. So I thought it was pretty well structured, like you're saying. And I think really like the women in it seem to be having a lot of fun playing the characters that they're playing. They have pretty good chemistry between each other, so it seems like they all like each other pretty good.
I'll agree with you on that one. I think they do have a lot of great chemistry, and that does go with their camaraderie / or lack thereof at some points in the film as they're being chased around the house.
Yeah. It's funny. I don't know if you guys noticed this. I didn't notice it until they pointed it out on the director's commentary, but on the poster for the movie, the girls on the poster are not the same as the ones in the movie. Did you notice that?
I read about that.
I read about that before I watched the trilogy, and I looked at the poster like that was a very common thing back then. Is you would see that the posters are like someone did that completely separate of the making of the movie without being given reference for who's actually in the movie.
But the weird thing about it is the actor who plays the killer, that is him on the cover, but you only see his legs in the drill.
Really? Oh my God. I can see this as well as a lot of other posters at the time period being ones that they just brought some actors in to set them up for the photographer, and then they shot them. Because that's the type of thing they used to do back then. Why hire the actors back to do these posters?
Yeah. I'm sure that was probably the thing. It was all about the money. It was probably like if we get these. Plus the availability of the actresses, they probably weren't in their contract to do a photo shoot, so they would have to pay them more, and then they might not even come out there and do it, So it's like,
I mean, I think the posters for the first and second, and I think all three of them are actually really really well done posters, and I would be completely shocked if any of the actors from the movie are actually on the posters. I'm looking at all three of them now. I'm like, I remember the posters being very iconic.
Right.
I doubt that the actors are actually on the posters.
That second one has like a rockabilly killer of the violin.
I noticed that.
Yeah.
It's got like a drill combined with an electric guitar.
Yeah.
The girls like singing it too. They have like a band. Yes.
Oh my god.
But there's like a lot less nudity in that one. There's no nudity in the beginning of it. I hadn't watched the whole movie. I watched about half of it last night, but it was
it's actually a lot crazier
than
the first one.
Yeah, it's
kind of rewatch those. I've seen the first one I think 3 times, maybe most. The second and third one I've only ever seen once. I need to rewatch those.
Yeah.
I remember when I watched all 3 of them recently. I may have seen the first one in the 80s, but because I watched a lot of shit in the 80s, but it never stuck with me.
Right.
The name stuck with me. Slumber Party Massacre stuck with me. And that's why when they released the 3 of them, I decided I need to watch all 3 of them because I hadn't seen them all. And the posters stuck with me. Like the posters for the first 2, I remember growing up and seeing those 2 posters. Just never watched the film. But the posters for those first 2 were very iconic for me as a kid growing up.
The posters are pretty impressive. They kind of definitely catch your eye. I'm like, what's going on in this movie?
I have no idea why I never watched the sequels as a kid. I still watch a lot of horror movies based on the covers. When I walked into video stores, I would just pick up random movies based on the covers. But for some reason, the second and third one, I never picked them up. No.
Even the electric guitar drill was enough to prompt that.
There was probably some new movie that came out that prompted me to rent that before Slumber Party Massacre.
Wow.
Or I just still but I was a kid back then. I probably saw Slumber Party Massacre and said, it's a bunch of girly movies. And just teenager, dude. Teenager, would you rather watch? Slumber Party Massacre or Halloween or Friday the 13th?
Well, it does have a bit of a feminist swing to it because it's written by a feminist author, especially the way that it ends.
It's one of the characters has is it a machete and just like slashes the drill in half.
Right, the bit of the drill, it cuts off his penis pretty much. But then all the
message.
The surviving girls team up and they're able to overtake him, which is which is pretty cool sequence. Apparently they had to reshoot it because they shot it all inside, and it wasn't. He's like, you need a bigger ending. Roger Corman was like, you need a bigger ending, so he gave him some more money, and they went out and they shot out by the swimming pool, which made it so they could like knock him into the pool and do all this crazy shit to him, cut off his hand. It's like,
all right,
but. Yeah, it's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool, like that part of the swimming pool, that whole sequence when they kill him is pretty awesome, really.
Mm-hmm. Well, Roger Corman has some great ideas. He knew how to sell a movie. And if he said you need a bigger ending, I'm gonna give you money to shoot a bigger ending, you're gonna shoot a bigger fucking ending. Yeah. And I think it works for this. The thing is that, and this is the amazing thing, that because it's the 80s movie, 80s franchise, by the way, that each one of the movies don't really have anything to do with the previous movies. They're all kind of.
But they cut in a bunch of footage from the first one, like real ridiculously. It's like she's having dreams about it. I guess you read about it in the newspaper or something. So it's like
a dream tie-in.
It's Roger Corman. Think about it. Roger Corman used to splice stuff from random movies into his current movies all the time. It's a comedy.
He probably got a good 2 or 3 minutes of running time out of that shit. Apparently, too, another thing that Roger Corman did on this movie, which he apparently did it on purpose. When they were shooting it, a lot of the scenes were like way over the top violent, and he did that. And bloody as hell. He did that so when they brought it to the censors, they would tell him to cut out some shit. So later on, when they brought it another time, they wouldn't be as picky on what they were going to cut out of it.
I heard he did that a lot, but it's good that you read about that for this film.
With the actor, I didn't read about it. It was the the director's commentary, the director said that's what happened. You know, he got her to shoot extra gore shit. She apparently wasn't real into shooting the gore stuff. As you see, most of the time you don't see anything, except for when the guys get killed. That's like really when you see something. She doesn't like really showing the violence against the women, even though sometimes when it gets further into the movie, she has to. There's a few instances where it was unavoidable, but most of the time it would be the drills coming towards them and they'll cut, and you assume they died, you know, most of the time.
Yeah.
Did they actually have any of those cut gory scenes in the 4K you watched?
No, they probably destroyed that footage. Yeah, I don't know.
That's too bad.
There's nothing really.
Too bad.
You know.
Interesting, but yeah.
I guess it's probably like there's probably extra. I mean, some of the scenes are already kind of gory when the guys are getting killed, and I bet they just went a little bit further with it on purpose. You know, it's kind of got to the point where it's like it was probably ridiculous, like it needed to be cut anyway because it was like, okay, well, you held this shot for too long anyway, so.
So, just as a reference, do either one of you remember whether or not that there was more gore towards the male victim in this movie, or?
Yeah, there definitely is.
Okay.
Yeah.
It just dawned on me. I didn't think about that when I was watching it.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
well, because really the biggest kill, the most gore is when the villain gets killed at the end.
Yeah.
And that's when you see the most, like him getting his hand cut off, and it really goes ballistic on him. And when he kills one of the other guys, he like stabs the shit out of him, and you see a bunch of blood coming out. And but yeah, usually when they kill the women, you don't see that much. They seem like he slashes one across the neck and he slashes one across the stomach, and you see the aftermath. Like he slashes like the African American one across the neck when she opens the door, and she turns around, you see it on her neck
with a drill.
Yeah,
that's kind of
unexpected. Which something hilarious that character does after the pizza man's killed. He's laying on the ground, and she goes over and she's like, "Oh, he's really cold, but this pizza's hot," and she starts eating the pizza
right off the body.
Yeah.
And there is another scene I do need to bring up. We have to talk about this before things are wrapped. There's this bit where the main character and her kid sister walk across into the house where the restaurant has been slashing up all the girls. And while the main character talks to her sister, the sister just casually opens up the refrigerator door, and you see it was the blonde girl who'd already been killed. Her body kind of slumps out, then it slumps back in as the door closes. Then the door opens again, and it slumps back out. And neither of the main character nor her sister realize what's going on at first.
Yeah. But
the way the body is in there, that actress, you can tell she's holding on to something off screen inside the fridge to pull herself back in and out as the door is opening and closing. It's this.
It's pretty funny though, really, and that actress is the one who did the commentary on the disc. She was talking about that scene. Yeah, she's said she was holding on to something in the fridge, pretty much.
It's this ridiculous, funny thing that makes things light all of a sudden after all this.
But also, you know what's interesting about things like that happen in this movie is she opens it up, you see the girl twice. And then it's not another 30 seconds later that she goes back in and opens the refrigerator up for real, and the girl falls all the way out. So it doesn't just, they don't walk away and don't see her dead. You think they're going to walk away and not see her, but then they do. So they do kind of follow through with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just this nice, funny, cheesy bit. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Well, you're right. There are a lot of the cheesy bits in this film that I think make it more enjoyable now. Now, none of us really watched it in the 80s when it originally came out. So watching it now, and after when I watched all three of them, I found them hilarious. So I don't know if audiences really took these films as serious as something like Friday the 13th. Or Halloween back in the day. For me, this was like an early version of a horror comedy slasher. that just happens to have a feminist bent to it. And before the slasher genre took over the 80s, you know?
Right. Some of the comedy may have gone over people's heads, or they may either that, or they may have been taken aback by it, because it is very sporadic throughout, but there is some definite, like that refrigerator scene, and there's a few other, the pizza guy, they open the door and the pizza guy's eyes are drilled out, and then they're eating the pizza from him. Those sort of bits are there, but they're not like in your face comedy.
No. That is very subtle comedy. It's the same with the repair woman who gets the comments by the kids. Yeah. And then a few moments later, she's getting killed inside the van, and she's trying to get the kids.
And the kids are just walking away.
It was funny about that too, is the way that they're kind of, she comes down and they're hitting on her, and she seems interested, and then they're too dumb to like follow through with it, or they're too shy or whatever. And
high school kids hitting on the repair woman.
Yeah, but she was into it though, But then. But it was like, that's what it's like. I was like, I thought there was going to be something bigger going to happen with her character. And then immediately the van doors opens and he pulls her in.
And
actually, Dave, I had a question about the pizza delivery guy. Since you watched the commentary on it, I'm sure people, the director and actors, had something to say about the pizza guy. I mean, was he related to anybody? Did he have any kind of connection to the director?
Yeah. He was a lot of the supporting parts that only have a few lines were like crew members. He was a crew member. I think he may have been like a script supervisor or something like that. They say that on the commentary. I don't remember what it was though. There's some other actors who were in, just like come on and say a few lines that were crew members as well. And most of them did pretty good. Actually, I don't think he wasn't a script supervisor, but he was some kind of he was a crew member of some sort. And he actually asked if he could do the part, he wanted to do it. So
hey, Roger Corman said he's using everybody.
Yeah, it's just such a, I don't know, identifiable part with this film. I thought that guy might wind up being the director's brother or something.
Yeah.
All right, so Slumber Party Massacre. Do you have any final thoughts about this for the audience?
The soundtrack is worth a couple comments on.
Okay.
I mean, it sounds like it was something that was composed on just a regular Casio keyboard, and
that's what it was.
Operatic, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, well, operatic synth effects.
Yeah, they said they didn't have any budget for this music, so they had like a friend of theirs compose it on a Casio keyboard. I think they even say it's Casio.
Oh my God.
That is completely believable. It's a simple thing, but it actually seems to work well for what's happening here.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
One thing I didn't mention before on purpose because I knew Kevin was going to ask at the end. Is there anything else? So I saved something.
Okay.
Not too impressive, but there's another comedy bit that when the neighbor girl who's like the kind of the second lead, she goes to get the machete. She goes into the tool shed. She's trying to pick a weapon, and she picks up a fucking circular saw. It's plugged in with an extension cord, like it's about a mile long. She tries to turn that on and tries to run with it, and then she runs into the door and like falls down with it.
You got to think that might have been left over from the original version of the screenplay.
Oh yeah. That was like the goofiest shit.
Yeah.
In the movie, though. It's
like she didn't notice it was plugged in.
I mean, I guess she thought it was like a battery operated circular saw, but she knew how to operate it. She's lucky she didn't get hurt doing that shit.
Knowing Roger Corman, it was probably really a real saw plugged in at the time.
Yeah. I don't know how it couldn't have been because it was running,
Oh my God.
Yeah.
All right. Is that it? Nate, did you say something already? Or
Yeah. Well, he mentioned the music.
Oh yeah, he mentioned the music.
Yeah. So what do you have to say that you didn't say yet, Kevin?
Yes, Kevin. What comments do you have?
I usually have a lot of comments, but that especially on the end, because I like to reference why these films are relevant not only to us at Conversation in Horror, but for other audience members to watch these movies. I like to point out that this movie, this franchise as a whole is one that was spearheaded by Roger Corman, but more importantly, by female directors and creatives who came up with each of these films and executed them with a different type of theme and look of the time period. Even the most recent remake did something really clever with the concept and ran with it.
Which, by the way, the remake was just a random factoid, but the remake was written by Suzanne Cayley, who apparently also worked on Warrior Nun and Ash vs. Evil Dead.
So, Ash vs. Evil Dead, I could see that because the type of humor that's in that show is in the remake, which is why the remake is so much fun. But when you look at this film and the whole oeuvre of 80s slasher films, it doesn't really stand out as much as some of the other more gorier films out there, or films that were more clever. The ideal that you have a different perspective for this film, this franchise, is what makes it relevant. And why people should seek it out. Now, is it the greatest slasher movie ever made? No, of course not. Is it entertaining as hell? Yeah, it is pretty fucking entertaining. It's funny. It's got some really good moments. It's got some really questionable moments. But the fact that I hope that people are going to go out there and search out Slumber Party Massacre is what we hope will happen here. I would like to see more of these type of films done by female directors, female creatives. There are a lot of them out there now. Some of them not as, in my opinion, as effective as this one is. But, never can tell. Everyone's trying to reinvent the wheel in this day and age. And why not go back to where it all kind of started? It's 80s. Slumber Party Massacre, So with that, I want to thank my guests for joining us for this conversation in Slumber Party Massacre, or Sleepy Party Massacre, or a Sorority House Massacre, or whatever else we can possibly come up with.
Or Slumber Party Murders, if it was in the UK.
Slumber Party.
Sleepless Nights never would have made it. Never would have sold as many tickets.
Don't open the door. That might have...
Sleepless Nights. Sleepless Nights sound like some really bad drama about an insomniac. So with that, I want to thank you all for joining us on Conversations in Horror. Make sure to check out some of our previous episodes on all the various films we've done, and make sure to check out our other Roger Corman themed films. God rest his soul. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and do all the things that you people do with podcasts. My name is Kevin Powers. I want to thank you for joining us. And everyone out there, have a good day until next week. Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production, produced by Kevin L. Powers, executive produced by Kelly A. Inoka, and originally filmed via Zoom technology. Conversations in Horror is hosted by Kevin L. Powers and co-hosted by various horror film lovers and filmmakers. To learn more about Mr. Powers, please make sure to check out his Patreon page and other social media platforms. Conversations in Horror is copyright 2024 Broken Lighthouse Pictures production.